practitioner investigation, we're just going to have a bit of a review of the assessment rubric or the performance standards for this task, just to make sure we're all on the same page and know exactly what we're talking about when we refer back to these. Alright, so let's get started. Knowledge and understanding, which is sometimes abbreviated to KU, and then we've got 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to look at this first one to begin with. So in-depth knowledge and understanding of creative arts concepts specific to the relevant creative arts disciplines. Obviously the relevant creative arts discipline is filmmaking. So we're talking about knowledge and understanding of creative arts concepts or filmmaking concepts, the production process. So pre-production, production, and post-production. And then from there you can go into all of the different elements of each of those. So for pre-production, you've got your script writing, your storyboarding, screenwriting, you've got your location scouting, you've got your costumes and makeup design. From there you've got genres, themes, symbols, motifs, how they've created the mise-en-scène, how they've created plots and storylines and structures. So that's all concepts. The production process, so actually getting out there and filming. You could then look at the cameras and other equipment that they might use, the types of locations and the scheduling and the way that that whole process is set up. Again, in itself is a concept that you should be addressing in your work. And then of course you've got post-production, editing, special effects, soundtrack, all of those extra things that come in at the end, again, are creative arts or filmmaking concepts that you need to address and show your knowledge and understanding of these things. KU2, astute and accurate understanding and use of language specific to relevant creative arts disciplines. Again, relevant creative arts discipline is of course filmmaking, and we're looking for language. If you think about the two words they've used there for the A-band, astute and accurate, accurate obviously meaning correct and to the point, and astute, using it well to your advantage. If you're talking about mise-en-scene, for example, you'll be talking about dominance, lighting, is it high key, low key, shots and angles, color, the lens and filter stocks that have been used, composition, density, depth of field, expression and movement, and that's all to do with mise-en-scène. You could then talk about plots and storylines and narrative structure. You could talk about, again, in detail, the different types of equipment, in detail, the way the locations are sought out and used. And you will be using filmmaking language throughout this whole time. And that brings us to KU3, in-depth knowledge of a variety of creative art media, materials, techniques, processes, and technologies, and understanding of their possible applications. So if we break that down, looking at creative arts media, so the type of films that we're looking at, the materials that are used to create those films, the techniques that you can find in those films, and of course the technologies. So an example there is if you're looking at a particular practitioner who's worked over a large time frame, there might be new technology available for the second film that you choose to analyse than they had in the first, and you could look at the comparison and look at the differences as a result of those technologies. And also showing that you understand how they've been applied or how they could be applied to other projects. And examine the elements and the structure. And so this refers to the sources and the ideas that you're looking at. So picking apart the ideas and the sources of information that you found to come up with your own conclusions. So that's analysis. Picking it apart, looking at the structure, looking at their little bits and examining those. So there needs to be evidence of that throughout your work. Likewise, astute and detailed exploration and analysis of appropriate creative arts media, materials, techniques, processes, and technologies within and or across creative art forms. We're looking at filmmaking, so we're looking at films. So this is exactly the same. Okay, so evidence of research needs to be demonstrated, and you need to analyze. So picking apart and examining the elements and the structure of the films, the processes, the materials, the techniques and technologies that have been used to create that work. Now we have our final performance standard, which is evaluation, so just referred to as E, and we're looking for insightful and knowledgeable evaluation of creative arts products with reference to practitioners' intentions, processes, outcomes, and contexts. So when you're evaluating something, you are assessing. Okay, you're forming an idea about it based on evidence. So when it says insightful, we're obviously looking for an in-depth, knowledgeable evaluation. Finding things that you wouldn't think of straight away. Really deep thinking needs to be applied here. And you're talking about the creative arts products with reference to what the practitioner, or the director in this case, really wanted to achieve. So what were they trying to do and how will they do it? You're assessing their work. And you're also talking about the processes they used to create the work, the outcomes, and the context in which those works were created. Similarly, we've got this final one, E2, which is discerning and well-informed appraisal of others' creative arts ideas and processes, and astute expression of aesthetic opinions. So you're looking for, again, you're assessing, you're trying to express your aesthetic opinions. So if you think of what aesthetics are essentially appreciation of beauty or how something looks, feels, sounds, but also it could refer to the set of principles from which a work is made. So again, coming back to those sort of intentions and what the creative arts practitioner is really trying to do, and you're coming up again with your appraisal. Okay, you're assessing it. How successful is it? How does it appeal to you as an audience member, etc. All right, so that's our performance criteria, our performance standards. That's of course the A band. If we have a look at the B and the C, I'm not going to go through them with you now, but you can have a look at the type of language that is used. You'll notice that to get a C, you've got appropriate knowledge and understanding. A B, you've got some depth of knowledge and understanding, and then to get an A, you've got in-depth and knowledge and understanding. Here, purposeful, well-considered, considered, well-considered, insightful. Okay, so you can see a bit of a trend there in the sort of words that they're using to describe different works at those levels. So you need to have a think about what you're creating, how in-depth, how purposeful, and how insightful your responses are in order to achieve at those particular levels.